I want to thank you for coming out tonight and probably eating a very early dinner or missing dinner and going to eat a real late one. I want to introduce our staff and our consultants. I'm Vivian Brooks. I'm the director of the Community Redevelopment Agency. Mike Simon, stand up please. He's the assistant director. And Mike Rumpf in the back, he's the planning director for the city. He's been here many, many years, so he knows everything about what's going on. Amanda Parker, she's also a planner with the city. Hannah Matris, planner with the city. And we have Anthea Genotis. She is with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. They are a consultant to the CRA and city on helping us on this project, which I will explain in a minute. And in the back is handing you your little clickers is Dana Little. He's with Treasure Coast as well. We are here tonight to talk about this project, which is the CRA Plan Consolidation Project. If you look at the book that's on the dais, that is a book of the CRA plans. The CRA is 1,650 acres of the city, and those plans are the plans that dictate what we can and cannot do, what we can spend money on, or what's the form of development. So that some of them overlap. There's areas that don't have any planning done for them. So that's the purpose, is to make that book get a lot smaller. Number one, that provides some clarity to developers, residents, people who are looking to buy here or invest here, a business or anything like that. We also have, as I said, we want to also look at areas that we've never had a plan for. What happens there? What kind of form of development do we want? So that's the purpose of why we're here today. You would have to be Kreskin to know where to look in there if you didn't call me or Mike or Hannah or Amanda. So we don't want that to be that way. We want it to be clear and concise so that everyone knows what is the vision for this area of the city. And we have a PowerPoint tonight, and you have clickers, and when we ask you questions, which are easy questions, there's no math involved, we just ask you to vote so we can get an understanding of what you would like to see happen in these areas. And some of the questions are like who you are as far as a resident or business owner. Thank you again. Anthea Genotis. I hope I'm saying that right.
Good evening, everyone. This is interactive. I'm going to, it's a bit of a long presentation. I'm going to go as quickly as possible. I do tend to talk fast, so that shouldn't be a problem. So we're going to give you a quick overview of the plans and what's guiding redevelopment now. We're going to do a test question so you guys get the hang of the clickers. They're pretty simple. And there are areas that, like Vivian referenced, where maybe there wasn't a clear graphic in one of these many pages, or there's an idea that's floated. And those in particular are what we want to be able to get feedback on fairly quickly. So this is your city. I don't know if maybe the lights are good or not good, but this is the entire city of Boynton Beach. The portion of your city that is in the CRA is outlined in red. It basically goes from the northern and southern city limits along the federal highway corridor to the intercoastal. It goes back, grabs the heart of Boynton neighborhood, jumps over I-95 just a little bit to pick up this industrial district that's west of 95. So this is where we're just going to do practice run. So the best way to do that is to find out who's in the room. So what best describes your link to the city? So you would press 1 if you live here, 2 if you work here, 3 if you do both here, 4 if it's none of the above. If you change your mind and forget that you work here, it's going to register whatever you press last. So I'm going to give you a countdown. I'm not going to vote because this is your city, not mine. So there's 10. I can tell 11, 12 of you have already responded. You have 5 seconds, and I'll show you how this works. So we get immediate feedback that most people in the room are residents, either live and work or live here. For the 13% of you that are none of the above, there are no cocktails being served, so I'm not sure why you're here, but we'll make it as entertaining as we can. So Vivian went over a little bit of this in her introduction. This CRA area is 1,650 acres. It met a finding of necessity back in 1981 to determine that the CRA could use special tools or be afforded special tools to help improve the district, to attract redevelopment, to improve infrastructure and other things. It does that not through an additional tax, but through leveraging public funds. As the tax base increased, a portion that would have gone to the county is recirculated directly into this district. It's overseen by a separate board. And the way that the investment is targeted is based on those plans. So there's a system of how this effort is controlled. Vivian Brooks oversees that. Mike Simon is, again, her assistant director. So the 4 plans that are in that notebook are the official plans that guide this investment. You have the Heart of Boynton plan, and this is the boundaries that it covers. You have the Federal Highway Corridor Community Redevelopment Plan. By the way, all of these are online. Your CRA has a great website. You can read any of them at any time. The Ocean District Community Redevelopment Plan was a smaller plan that was focused right around this area, where your public uses are. And then the Downtown Vision and Master Plan. So when we start talking about overlap, you can see that some of these areas have had more than one effort on them, and others not so much. The purpose is to consolidate all of these instructions, to update it, because some efforts have been implemented, others have changed over time. So just really quickly, here is an image of the Heart of Boynton plan. Again, it's available online. The Heart of Boynton was brought into the CRA in 1988. The original plan was adopted in 2001. It has been fully updated 2 years ago. So this plan in particular has had really a public effort that went back through it fairly recently. The plan identifies 7 distinct neighborhoods within that Heart of Boynton area. And in this 2014 update, the plan was implemented to target 6 major projects moving forward. There is a model block effort. There is the idea of taking Martin Luther King Boulevard as it goes east of Seacrest and really establishing a neighborhood commercial area, and several other specific efforts, including continued expansion of Sarah Sims Park. The Heart of Boynton is largely a residential at a neighborhood scale infill effort, and these are some of the graphics that came out of that update. Okay, so the Federal Highway Corridor Community Plan. This was also brought in fairly early. The direction in 1983 was basically the creation of a unique identity for downtown that was pedestrian-friendly, marine-focused, oriented to the water. It basically targeted mixed-use development, again, focusing on the waterfront. A hotel with convention space was called out as being a desirable use that the CRA should be pursuing. In 1988, the district was expanded actually to go all the way to the north and south city boundaries. Basically, the last update was in 2006, and that's a plan that you can read online if you're interested. What that update did, or the current guideline did, was it basically said that this entire commercial strip is not just one type of development. So it divided it up into 5 different planning areas with specific recommendations for those. I'm not going to get into basically all of this. I've made a list of some of the 9 major recommendations, but basically the most intense development was focused around 2, 3, and part of 4, with 2 and 4 transitioning down in scale as you moved south and north. It really wanted or advised that a form-based approach be taken for development so that you understood the scale of what things looked like with a lesser focus on density. Some of these recommendations have come through, some haven't. Again, the 6 projects that this plan specifically called out for were a convention-style hotel in Area 3. So this is Area 3. This is Boynton Beach Boulevard, just so you're oriented. So it's right here. that you have, entry features that announce that you're coming into the city. Public parking was needed in the downtown area. There were issues apparently with outdoor storage and really trying to improve pedestrian crossings at the major nodes of development. So this was really what that plan was targeting. The Ocean District Community Redevelopment Plan, this was the small one that really focused between Seacrest and I guess it's even west of Federal, but it's this area that is largely comprised of the public uses along Ocean Avenue. The plan was adopted in 2004, and it again was really trying to sculpt this area of Boynton Beach Boulevard into a pedestrian-friendly address. The idea of buildings lining the street, public plazas, things like that. This is actually from 2004. There were two plans developed for this area, one which maintained the high school in its current position and one which did a proposal without it. So 10 years later, this plan was revisited with the Boynton Beach Town Square effort. This is not a redevelopment plan. This is one of the many advisory efforts that the CRA continues to reach out to gain more information, but there were nearly 60 attendees at this. And this time, 3 options for the cultural campus were developed, both maintaining the high school or repurposing it or replacing it altogether. And so that question, or that effort remains an issue today, 10 years later. So the downtown master plan was probably one of the more comprehensive ones. It did include the Heart of Boynton effort. This time it went over I-95 to include this industrial district as well. And this plan laid out a very sort of clear pattern. I was the first one to raise the issue that a TOD would be appropriate around the downtown core next to the FEC. It made, again, advice towards the cultural campus, which was studied in the Ocean, I'm going to get it wrong, the Community Ocean District Redevelopment Plan and the Town Square Plan. It was one of the first plans, however, to envision Ocean Avenue as a cultural avenue, and that's part of why you see the art installations and the streetscape improvements that have happened over time. It also identified the neighborhood centers would be attractive or a good idea along Martin Luther King Boulevard and Heart of Boynton. The Heart of Boynton update reaffirmed that direction as well, but you can see there's 2 plans making the same instructions. And that Federal Highway should actually become more of a greenway moving forward, especially where the FEC is between it. Okay, so of these 4 plans, there's a lot of implementation that's been done over the 10 years. I'm just going to show you a little bit from each of the areas. Heart of Boynton has had a lot of focus, both with CRA and city support. Keep in mind, the importance of the plan is the CRA cannot move forward or support projects that are not agreed upon as being important in the redevelopment plan. So that's why it's important we know. I don't know why it's doing it twice. Sorry. So some of the things that happened in Heart of Boynton. Seacrest Boulevard was actually improved. This is a before image. This is after with sidewalks and streetscape and a new median. There was a participation to improve Galaxy Elementary, which involved land swapping and improving, the facilities for the kids that go there, which is a huge asset to a neighborhood to have a strong elementary school. So a series of art installations that have happened over time. A significant and varied efforts at infill housing throughout the area have been accomplished. And then the Sim Center has had a new building and significant resources aimed towards making that really a first-class amenity for the neighborhood over time. Remember, we were supposed to mark the beginning and entries of your cities, right? So these markers happened over time as well. The focus, of course, on creating a waterfront or marina has also been engendered or helped along by your CRA. And the current effort underway now is expanding public access along this with the promenade and public open space. All of this supported by what the redevelopment plans instruct as being a priority for you. So this is why it's important to participate in these things when they come along. Parking in the downtown core. Again, these improvements have been engendered by the CRA. Here's Ocean Avenue and some of the art. There's more than that over time. And also, okay, so here's Ocean Avenue. Here's an opportunity for public parking, providing a promenade to link those folks that are coming in. That's underway now. So here's the sidewalk that's linking Ocean Avenue to this new lot in the back. All of these little infrastructure efforts, add up to continue to improve the public over time. Now, part of the effort is not for your public dollars to do this permanently. Part of the effort is to attract private investment to begin to play a role actually moving forward, not only to improve the physical environment, but to establish a tax base that can maintain your city over time. So over the last 15 years or so, you have had almost 3,500 units come into the CRA. They are basically keyed to this list, so you can see where they are. You've had over 140,000 square feet of commercial, either retail or office. I sort of collapsed it together. I'm trying to see if I can get there he goes. Okay, so these three that are clustered here that are in gold are the most intense that have come in, and they are located where your plan suggested, both the Federal Highway and the Downtown Master Plan. This is your downtown core. So those units are here, and you can see as you move towards the edges of the community, all of these projects are around 20, maybe less, GUs per acre. Heart of Boynton has a lot of single family. But here's the location of where that new development has come in over time. So, what's been going on lately? Your planning and CRA staff has done really an exhaustive existing conditions analysis to see where needs exist now. And that had 4 key elements, looking at socioeconomic trends, looking at future land use and zoning, evaluating the built condition, and also the condition of the infrastructure in these areas. And so you have everything from these demographic analyses that talk about the age of population to median income. There's many of these. I believe this document is also online, but I'm not sure where. So we'll get back to that. So here's some of the key findings. For example, within the CRA, you have 60% of the houses were built prior to 1971. The median values of the homes in all categories are quite low. So despite this new investment that has come in over time, you have almost half of the townhomes have a taxable value less than $100,000. They're all less than $1,000, but so that's something to look at over time. With the deductions and how your city grows moving forward. There are some needs that will need to be addressed with diversifying the housing stock. Your built inventory, this covered everything from the condition of buildings, but also the condition of your cultural resources. Which buildings, need, the high school, for example, this was an easy one to show, but other historical resources in town as well. And then looking at how the properties are actually used. Forget what the zoning says. There's usually a wide range that can happen, but how are they being used? And looking at that. Your parks. You have a tremendous number of parks, which is great. This analysis identified the park, which district it's in, what type of park is it, right? Is it a neighborhood park? Is it a waterfront with beach access? How large or small it is, and then the condition of what's going on now. So we can tell you that Barton Memorial Park, the picnic equipment is in good condition and it's a passive park. But if we look down to, if we look at Kids Kingdom Playground, the playground is heavily used, but it's currently falling into poor condition. So, you start to understand where maybe we need to target resources in the next wave moving forward. Hang on, let me get my button here. Utility improvements, literally figuring out, in this case, where the sidewalk ends and where links need to be installed and established moving forward. And then other efforts which maybe are less tangible, but the state FDOT has advanced its understanding of TOD and what makes it viable and successful. And adopting the policies and making sure that if and when commuter rail starts, you're prepared. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I did. Oh, I fell into I'm sorry, the acronym government worker. I apologize. Transit-oriented development. This is a concept that in Florida we're not really good at. Some of you that may have moved from other northern states know how these things work. However, as I-95 cannot get any wider, we're going to have to start diversifying how we move about the region. And when commuter rail, which is already on Tri-Rail, potentially expands to FEC, which is historically where passenger rail was in our region, there's an opportunity to really maximize that, not only for the success of the service, but also if it's done well, it brings a premium return on investment if there's active commuter rail. The state knows this and has issued basically a guidebook for municipalities to use. I'm happy to say your municipality is probably better prepared than most that if and when this comes, these policies are put in place. So that's an effort that has happened that you're not going to see on the ground, but it's just preparing for the future if and when it comes. So I'm going really fast, I know. Consolidating the CRA plan. Okay, it is not just because Michael and Vivian can't carry around this big book, okay, because they do it all the time. I see them. But, you have separate and overlapping plans that if they're in one document, they're easier for people who want to invest in your city to understand what's expected of them, but they're also easier for all of you to understand what's coming, right? So it's a benefit to both public and private sector to move these things together into a space that makes sense. So if we take a step back, how do we do that? Okay, so here's the FEC and US 1, which are probably the first parts of your city. We know that Boynton Beach Boulevard, and here's Ocean Avenue, just so everyone's oriented. We know that this was your historic downtown core, but we know that I-95, now CSX to the west, make Boynton Beach Boulevard really your main entry into your city now. You have this cultural district that's well established with the building that we're in, the campus that we're in, and Ocean Avenue as well. Just for orientation, there's Woolbright, which is developing its own node. Here's Gateway, 23rd to the south. And we know that as these two are, talking to each other, the reality is the development really does reduce in scale and intensity moving north and south. We have Heart of Boynton. Here's Seacrest Boulevard coming north. Here's MLK. And that intersection has become increasingly important within the Heart of Boynton. So we know that if we take all the overlapping plan districts away, this is kind of a diagram of how things are working. And then here's the forgotten industrial district that's on the west side, right? If we overlay for scale, the transit-oriented development half-mile radius, which is generally how far transit will draw, you can bike or walk it fairly easily, so just an important touchstone to know. So what do we do with this? The first step that has been taken is really to take that information and try to define districts, single districts that are not guided by more than one plan. And the way these are taking shape is that you would have your downtown district, the cultural district remains its own special entity, Boynton Beach Boulevard, Heart of Boynton, maintains Heart of Boynton. An industrial craft district is now picking up that western part that has had very little focus in the plans. And then Federal Highway North and South, although there has been some discussion on whether they should be two separate districts or one altogether. So, that's enough, something to consider moving forward. So we've gone from 4 plans to 6 clear districts, possibly 7, depending on Federal Highway. So I'm going to start with the district that's had the least amount of focus in the redevelopment plans, which is this industrial area to the west. Here's I-95 and the CSX. Here's the canal to the north. This is Boynton Beach Boulevard. And you can see from Industrial Way, it transitions very quickly into single family on the other side of this district. So that's something to keep in mind. There are fewer and fewer opportunities for in-town industry. So there's potentially, a need to protect this. But then how do you make it thrive? How does it become a really attractive industrial location for jobs and other businesses moving forward? If you haven't been over there, there is an emerging art scene that is working its way into the district, which makes it rather interesting. And this is what the road looks like today, Industrial Way. I'm looking north, and you can see as you turn into the district, there's some of this artistic effort that has started to move in. However, you'll also notice that there's people parking on an unimproved shoulder. There is no way to walk in the art walks that are handled, much less between businesses. This is the transition, in some cases, to the single-family neighborhood to the west. Some of the industrial uses will use the swales for parking. At this point, there's basically a tow truck and a car, but in some cases, it's actually a much more significant piece of significant vehicles that are parked there. Drainage is not consistent. The northern end does have drainage. However, the other southern areas are have less infrastructure. And again, it does transition, in this case, directly, to residential neighborhoods. And so there's impacts, from that to be considered. So, moving forward, is there a way to perhaps improve the privacy of the residential neighborhoods to the west and also provide, parking and drainage and other things that this district maybe would be improved by? So, this is the first time you get to vote moving forward. The transition that I just showed you, which basically took the fences and put in a more permanent wall, I can show it to you again. Is this type of transition between the industrial and residential uses appropriate for this portion of this? Would you think that this is a good project to pursue moving forward to protect the residents on the west side and also maybe organize the parking and drainage for the industrial district? So you're going to press 1 if your answer is yes, 2 if your answer is no, and 3 if your answer is I'm not sure. So there's 32 of you. Okay, so that helps us moving forward to know that this makes sense to those of us in the room moving forward. Thank you. Infrastructure's improvements like drainage, parking, sidewalks, lighting, there are other issues that are not listed here that are really related to public infrastructure. Do you support the CRA taking a role in improving those types of things? So it's 1 if it's yes, 2 if it's no, and 3 if I'm not sure. And I am not voting, for the record. I'm just holding it. Okay, 3 seconds. 33 responses. I hit it too fast, I think. Hold on. Did I? Okay, so 85%. So thank you. That's a pretty clear level of opinion. Thank you. Okay, then this is the other one. I showed you the emerging art scene that's beginning to happen over there, because those types of uses for studios and painting and things like that are permitted within industrial districts, particularly the sculptors that can get kind of a bit loud. Do you support encouraging that? Now, encouraging goes beyond like it's allowed and we're going to let it keep happening, or is this something that the CRA should take an active role in fostering? Yes is number 1, 2 is no, and 3 is I'm not sure. So you have 10 seconds. Polling's closed. Okay. So thank you. This is, again, helps staff moving forward to create that first draft. We know where we're going. Okay. We're going to talk next about Boynton Beach Boulevard. We're going to start just coming into the city from the industrial district. This is your main entry point. The plans that are in place have largely focused on Boynton Beach Boulevard. This is Seacrest from Seacrest East. There hasn't been as much focus or discussion on Boynton Beach Boulevard in that western section. So we're particularly asking you to vote on things that we think are new, that don't have a clear graphic or something. So I'm going to show you. This is an image. If I'm driving east, I've gotten off of I-95 and I'm entering your city. This is what it looks like today. There's a lot of vacant parcels. So moving forward, if it was to turn into something like this, basically one-story retail lining the street, improved landscaping, lighting. The question is this a proper direction for this western portion of the Boynton Beach Boulevard direction? Boulevard district. Blah. This is, it's east of the school. Okay. East of the school?
Yes.
So it's Boynton Beach Boulevard.
No, same side.
Okay, should I go back? 7 of you weighed in, but you guys, I can reset it. Let's do this. So this is east. I don't have the map. So it's taken right about here.
Sorry, Captain Frank Seafood.
Captain.
This store. Just that view is in the median.
It's about in here, right? This is Seacrest here. It's about in here, kind of where the arrow is pointing. Okay, I think I have to reset the slide, so bear with me for just a second, because I think that we started. So, okay. So I'm going to show you the image again so we can get oriented, and I apologize. So you are west of Seacrest. You are looking east, though. You are much further west. And this is potentially, sorry, it went too fast. All right. So I'll show it to you again if you prefer. Otherwise, we can vote. You guys want to see it again? Okay, vote. All right. So you have 10 seconds. It was a one-story, kind of a retail liner with improved landscaping, lighting. Similar to what you see on Gateway. It doesn't light up. If you just push it, it registers it. And it will register whatever you pushed last, so you can change your mind. Because I got 30 of you that time before there was more. So, okay. So this scale, this is a lower scale than sometimes what you see, but this is consistent with improving, the entry to the city. 70% of you, 17% of you didn't like it. Okay, so this is Boynton Beach Boulevard. Here's 3rd. This is the south side. Okay, and so what happens here, unlike the part that's by Seacrest, right, where it transitions into the campus we're in, this moves pretty quickly into single-family housing here, right? So these commercial pieces, especially if they start taking the whole block, begin to impact this street. So this is a picture of Northwest 1st Street today. This is what it looks like. Here's that vacant piece. So how, as the district develops, do we improve this street, keeping in mind that commercial is coming in? So this is a transition which would basically contain the commercial and then improve the streetscape behind that. And so the question for you guys is going to be whether this is a desirable transition or not. Okay, so you're going to get that question. This type of transition between commercial and residential uses, is this appropriate behind Boynton Beach Boulevard? So you're going to press yes for 1, 2 for no, and 3 for I'm not sure. It's not counting down. Sorry, guys. It's not counting down. So only 18 of you registered. Okay. I can reset it or we can keep moving. All right, we'll keep moving. All right, this one I'm going to go really slow with because I'm not sure if I'm hitting it more than once. Moving to Seacrest. We're going to go east towards Seacrest. Here's the public campus now, right? We're in here somewhere. Here's the KFC. You're looking east. These are images that were presented by Urban Advantage in one of the advisory kind of efforts that have happened, which are not part of the redevelopment plan. So the question is improving the streetscape on Boynton Beach Boulevard something that's important, a priority moving forward? So this is an image before or after. This is before. Look at after again. And so the question is this type of streetscape improvement desirable for this portion of Boynton Beach Boulevard? So we've moved, looking at Seacrest, you're looking down. I'm afraid to touch it, so I'm just watching you guys click. I think that at this point, no, it couldn't.
What about the DT,
Well, they would have to be a partner, and that's one of the things that.
They're enlarging the road. Now you're trying to small it, shorten it. That doesn't make sense.
No, they're not.
This is the widening, I guess, is happening west of Seacrest. West. Now you're moving east of Seacrest. Now, FDOT definitely has to be at the table. You're absolutely right. Okay, they're a part of this roadway effort. There are different ways to achieve landscaping and sidewalks. If you run out of right-of-ways, perhaps there's ways to have the front setbacks of buildings actually augment what you can get out there. So there's different tools to achieve that type of result if you run out of right-of-way. It's just a question of whether your staff should basically be pursuing this with DOT and others, if this is important moving forward to you or not. So I have 27 of you. Now it's giving the type, and it turned pink. So I have a ghost in the machine. I'm going to try not to touch it too much. So now I have 33 of you. And this thing is nuts. Okay, you have 80% of you agree. Okay, and it may be a challenging one to do, but if it's something that's important, then that gives your staff clear direction that, moving forward, this is something you'd like to see. This image is up here. You had the town square effort that I touched on briefly, which was not a formal update to the Ocean District Community Development Plan, but it did illustrate some of the characteristics that have come up in both the Ocean City and the Downtown Master Plan, which were buildings lining the street, establishing that pedestrian-friendly environment. There is a certain scale of redevelopment that is illustrated in this. And so the question moving forward is the scale and type of redevelopment appropriate for this area east of Seacrest? And it's 1 if it's yes, 2 if it's no, and 3 if I'm not sure. It's the same images that you see on some of the posters.
City Hall. It starts at City Hall right here.
Starts right, Seacrest to City Hall and goes towards the water, away from I-95. The high school is behind this graphic. This is the south, but I would think that the best way to evaluate it would be if it would be consistent on both sides. So, and now you get a countdown in blue. So. Okay. All right, so this has dropped a bit, right? We were much higher on some of the others. So half of you are comfortable, 30% of you are not, and 16% of you are not sure. So that tells us moving forward that maybe we need to provide a few more illustrations and choices as the plan develops. So, okay. Within the heart of Boynton, as I touched on briefly, the heart of Boynton just underwent a fairly significant update. And so this is one area of this area where I think there's fairly clear direction moving forward. And I showed you that graphic. But there was one piece, which is this is an image of Martin Luther King Boulevard looking east. Seacrest is behind me. This is, if you'll remember, I showed that link. While the intersection is intended to be a commercial node, there's, I think, both the Downtown Master Plan and the Heart of Boynton Plan talked about then transitioning to multifamily along that street. So the character of that multifamily can look like a lot of different things, right? It can have a townhouse characteristic, it can be fairly urban. So the question for you tonight is whether this looks like an appropriate character and scale for the Heart of Boynton moving forward. So you're going to get asked that question. Is this 45 feet is the current zoning height, but what you saw before you was 2 to 3 stories. No, what you saw was an image of built development in another city that's consistent with the sort of the direction that staff is taking based on Heart of Boynton. And so again, this is Martin Luther King Boulevard. And so the question is whether, yes, that was appropriate redevelopment scale or no for the Heart of Boynton neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to touch it one more time. We'll see what happens. Okay, so yes. So that's not kind of as urban as some of the other images. It's a little looser, so that tells us that we're somewhat moving in the right direction there. The cultural district, which is what we're standing in. This one in particular has had a lot of focus over the years. We are in, this is Ocean. It does sort of link to the downtown. Boynton Boulevard, when somebody was asking where the high school was in relationship to the Boynton Beach Boulevard district, here's Seacrest, so you can see that this comes up, transitions into this cultural node. Again, the town square plan, that study looked at both of those areas. So this is what Ocean Avenue looks like today. It has had streetscape improvements. It has had art installations. And as it moves forward, as redevelopment occurs, is this sort of 3 to 4 story mixed-use development appropriate? You're going outside of the cultural campus, moving east towards the downtown area. So is this scale and type of infill along Ocean Avenue in the cultural district appropriate? 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for I'm not sure. And that was 3 to 4 stories is what was illustrated. So no. So we are on the wrong track here. So that is really good advice to get. And you all know what we saw. So we're going to have to circle back to this issue moving forward then. Okay. Downtown. Okay, so again, this is mostly the historic core of the city. This pink is a little misleading because there's a bunch of mangroves under the D. But at any rate, this is where the most intense development and a transit-oriented development pattern is contemplated. And keep in mind, part of the effort of the CRA is to focus your growth. You have to focus it in one place or another. And the idea is to move it away from the single-family neighborhoods, so it's not backing right up to them, and towards where you have mixed-use districts where you can do more than one errand in a car or on foot, or there's other options. There is a new concept, which I'm going to show you in a minute, about 4th Street, which is here, which runs parallel to Federal Highway. But in general, this is the pattern this is 500 Ocean. This is an illustration of it, which is coming in right here. So that's the pattern of development in the downtown currently. So this is another aerial view. This is 4th. So again, what we're really highlighting today are things that are maybe new contemplations or issues that we've identified. Here is Federal Highway. And so what you'll see happening, this is Pence Park, is that some of these parcels are quite large, and they transition all the way through. And there's concern that as development faces Federal Highway, significant development is going to back onto 4th, potentially, and that maybe design criteria is necessary, whether it's landscaping or ensuring that there's a liner of an appropriately scaled portion of the development so that it's not the backs of garages or parking that occurs overlooking the park. And so the question is, if ensuring a superior environment on 4th and Pence Park is important, or do we recognize maybe that it has to be backs? That's really the decision for the land development regulations moving forward. So if it's important to protect 4th in scale and character, press 1. If it's maybe not so important, press 2. If you're not sure, press 3. Polling's closed. Okay, so 60% of you have some concern about what's going to happen to that street in the future. So that's something else that will continue to move forward. Okay, so Federal Highway. Of course, Federal Highway was our historic commercial corridor, connects Key West to Maine. Since 2000, there has been significant redevelopment. If you think back on the sheet where I had all the little tags, there were a lot of little tags focused both north and in the southern, particularly in the southern area. But what's happened is over time, the low-hanging fruit has redeveloped. And so now you're talking about fewer opportunities, and then it's likely going to gravitate towards the existing commercial properties that are becoming outdated. So we think moving forward that what needs to happen is an analysis of where potential redevelopment is going to occur. So here is 23rd, for example. There's a vacant parcel in the corner. There's a small commercial property here. This is not necessarily like these are new projects. This is a new project. All of these are built out and people are living in them. This is a single family neighborhood. So the redevelopment strategy is going to likely have to become more surgical moving forward in time and ensure compatibility among the transitions between it. So that is basically kind of direction we're going. This is the first time sort of the districts have been presented to the public, the direction, the schedule that's moving forward. And so this is intended to be a public process. This is an allocation or sort of a direction of how investment on behalf of the city in this area will be focused in the future. So today is the first step in that. There will also be a developers forum moving forward. You will have the opportunity to weigh in on a draft that you can read, download, print, and look through. This is going to involve another public workshop once everyone's had a chance to look through it, check the graphics, make sure they agree or don't agree, or we left something out that's important. And then for it to actually become, the guiding document, there will be an adoption process, which will require hearings in front of the CRA advisory boards and the CRA board itself and the commission before the final plan is in place. So this is a first step. And, I know some of this seemed a little simplistic, but there wasn't a lot of focus in some of these areas. And we just wanted to make sure before we're drafting things that we're going in the right direction and where we're not. So really thank you all for, giving up your prime dinner time and coming out and clicking. I'm going to let Vivian take over, but I did want to say these do not work at home. They won't help you with your phone. They don't work on your TV, but I get in a lot of trouble if I don't come home with all of them. So if you just, please don't accidentally stick them in a pocket. Every now and then one comes in the mail, but if you could, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
And again, I want to thank you all for coming out. I know it's not always easy to come out after work or a long day. We do appreciate your input. We know that change is hard, and we all live in our own communities, and we see change too, and we experience the upside and the downside of that change, and we try to manage change. And as planners, and we're planners, our idea is to manage change, not to fight it, but to how to make it better for the community. So that's what we're here for. We're not here to push down anything in your throat, but growth is a fact of life, and how do we manage that growth so that it makes sense for all of us and that we have a good community that's economically and environmentally sustainable. And that's really what we are here to do. That is what we're tasked to do as planners. So I hope you appreciate that's what our job is, and we're here to work with you and hear your concerns. So thank you very much. Well, when they do a mock-up, it's called it's a mock-up. It's somebody putting something on a computer to lay over on a street photo. It's not what it's going to be. It's only to show you scale. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with architectural style.
I guess I would love that if you pick the style and do that style.
We have tried to get a color palette adopted. Mike has suffered horribly with that. We have tried to get an architectural style. We have not been able to get that through adoption into the code. So we'll give it another shot.
I have
Okay. We're not, that's part of Federal Highway. So that's part of Federal Highway. We're not zooming in on any one particular locale. As you can see, we're not saying one particular site, so.
Can I follow up for you? Because I'm assuming you didn't support the ocean. And those of you who didn't,
Wondering, is it appropriate for 2, 3, 4 stories?
Can I ask if you guys could come to the mic so the clerk can record it? Because poor Catherine, she's trying to. I see her eyes are going glazing over. So if you have a comment, could you come up to the other mic so Catherine can capture your comments for the record? Thanks. I'm a little more informal, but Catherine has to do her job.
Are we giving name, address, or no?
Catherine says yes. She's the boss.
Michael Wilson, 1224 Isle Court in Boynton Beach. The only thing on that one graphic I was thinking, as I said, it was the style of the graphic presented.
Okay.
And I think the CRA was really looking at, is 2, 3, 4 stories appropriate? So maybe that's why the vote was as it was. I'm not 100% sure on that, but for me, I think it was. One question I do have, is there any thing going forward that can be given out at this point on Guy Harvey? Switching gears.
We have, as Anthea pointed out in our plans going back to the early days, there's always been a goal to have a hotel in the downtown. So there's been efforts on our part to reach out, obviously not in the recession, but now that we're back out of the recession. But no, we're shooting arrows and hopefully one will stick. That's what we do.
Right.
So, okay.
Thank you.
My name's Harry Woodworth. I live at 685 Northeast 15th Place. First off, thanks for having this. This is awesome. The one thing we didn't talk about any place, anywhere in this was the height on all of this stuff. And again, last night at the commission meeting, we discussed height, and it was, we were told that developers can just show up with what they want. Well, if we keep approving every damn thing they show up with at any height, then of course they're going to keep showing up with these monstrosities. I guess I would like to be on the record. This city once had a referendum. It was 4 stories. We could have that again tomorrow. It would pass in a heartbeat. We actually tried to start that referendum, and we find out state law prohibits us as citizens from having a referendum on that matter. It is absolutely against the law for us to tell you guys what we want. So I guess I just want to be on record as saying lower is better. I mean, there's appropriate stuff in the central core area, but these buildings that creep up to 10 stories right next to nothing that's bigger than 4 is outrageous, and it's got to stop. And if we keep approving it, it's not going to stop. So I just want to be on a record in this meeting for that. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Audrey Gerger. I live at 331 Northwest First Avenue, and I have a question. I'm a little confused about the 2 posters up on the top. Okay, the one to the left,
Right
over
here?
Yeah, that one.
Huh?
That's Ocean Boulevard at Seacrest.
No, that's Boynton Beach Boulevard and Seacrest.
Boynton Beach Boulevard.
Where are you standing?
Okay, so you're taking down Boynton Beach Boulevard and Seacrest.
We're at City Hall?
So you're
Yep.
going down south. You're going south on Seacrest.
You're going, that's looking, that's going east on Boynton Beach Boulevard on your right-hand side.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is actually,
That's actually an entry into the middle of that project. That's not Seacrest that you're looking at.
right, that's Ocean Boulevard.
No.
That's
No.
not.
it's a new. on. These plans are in here.
So it's this, oh, I see, it's this road. Okay. So you're actually so you're tearing down the high school on that side?
No, it doesn't, this doesn't contemplate tearing it down. It could say.
Hold on, I'm going to show you the plan. I've got them.
You can't see it from here.
Okay, so, and it's behind you now, so this is going to get weird. I'll talk to the back of you, and you can't face me. But this image that you're looking at is actually describing, if you look down this road, and a new character, if the property along Boynton Beach Boulevard was to change into some other type of development. So that opening that you see with all the palms on that image is looking down this new connection.
Oh, I see.
And part of the reason for this new connection was actually to align it with the high school, which is on the block behind it. So this was starting to make pedestrian and sort of plazas linking to
So that's
the
where
high school.
the city hall is now.
Right. And so because when this study was done in 2014, there was a contemplation of whether these public uses along Boynton should, be replaced by something else, given their prominent location. And so this study looked at that, and then the earlier one, 10 years earlier, did the same thing, which was starting to talk about what happens here, public uses. Do you keep the high school? Do you not keep the high school? So this one, and again, this town square report is available on the CRA's website if you want to take more time and really look through the choices that were presented at that time. Now, I don't know what's happened since.
So where's the city hall then, if you tear it down?
There would be a new city hall built in somewhere on the campus that the city owns. The city owns that land from Boynton down to 2nd. So it would be rebuilt somewhere in the campus.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Barbara Riddy, 329 Southwest 13th Avenue, Boynton Beach. My first concern is there is such a thing as too much density. Those of us who live east of 95 in this Forest Park area here, we have a concern for parking. We like our green space. We don't like to see parallel parking on Seacrest. There is just such a thing as too much density. I have a concern about that. I sat on the Downtown Master Plan Steering Committee, as Vivian is well aware, when EDA came to town. And EDA told us that Ocean Avenue is a jagged tooth, which is ripe for infill. And I really wouldn't consider infill to be putting walls of buildings down either side. That makes me claustrophobic. Yeah.
As evidenced by the polling, so we
Yes,
got it. So.
yes, good idea. My other concern is we're voting on things that pertain to the heart of Boynton and MLK and that TOD, and you really don't have a representative contingency from that area. So those of us who don't live there voting on 4-story mixed use or whatever story mixed use probably would not make those people happy. You need to ask the people that live in that neighborhood what would make them happy. And it's not your fault that they're not here tonight. I am assuming anyways. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
My name is Leslie Johnson. I live at 1820 New Palm Way, Boynton Beach, Florida. I thank you for this meeting. I'm very impressed by all the work that you're doing, but I do have a concern. We have existing buildings up and down Federal Highway that are in terrible condition. They're not within code compliant. Some of them are rotting. Most of them are vacant. Some of them do have tenants in them, but they're in dangerous situations. And I'm wondering how the CRA can help out with that.
CRA has grants for interior build-out, exterior, rent subsidy, and for permits to repay for the permit fee. We let people know every year that we have that money, and we fund it very heavily. You can't make somebody do it. It does require a match. The money is free, but it does require a match on the part of either the property owner or the tenant. And a lot of people have taken advantage of it. However, those properties that you see like that, those people, they're just not interested. We call them, they are not interested. So what you will see happen probably is someone will eventually pay their price that they want, and it'll either get redone and or get torn down and rebuilt.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
My name is Laura Edgerton Williams. I live at 1890 Northeast 2nd Court. The heart of Boynton is part of my family land, and I do think something needs to be done. That area is really in bad shape, and majority of the people that are over there do not own anything. So I think the city should invest in cleaning up that area and making it beautiful. Thank you.
We agree. Well, again, thank you everyone for your comments and participating. We do appreciate it. Have a good evening.